The moment Muhammad Ali's fist stopped inches from his opponent's face, the entire arena held its breath. What the champion saw in those desperate eyes would haunt him forever and change boxing history. The leather gloves hung motionless in the thick Las Vegas air. Muhammad Ali, the greatest boxer the world had ever seen, stood frozen in the center of the ring, his arm extended but refusing to complete the punch. Across from him, his opponent swayed on unsteady legs, blood trickling from a cut above his eyebrow, but it wasn't the physical damage that stopped Ali cold. It was something far more terrifying reflected in those eyes, a complete absence of self-preservation, a look that screamed this man had absolutely nothing left to lose. The date was March 1977, and Ali was facing Jimmy Young in a bout that should have been routine. The champion had seen fear in opponents' eyes before, had witnessed anger, determination, even hatred. But this was different. This was the hollow stare of a man who had bet everything on this one fight, who had borrowed money he couldn't repay, whose family waited in a cramped apartment with an eviction notice taped to the door. Ali had heard the rumors in the locker room. Young's wife was sick, his daughter needed surgery, and this purse was supposed to save them all. The arena erupted in confusion as Ali lowered his gloves. 15,000 fans screamed for action, for blood, for the knockout they had paid to witness. The referee moved closer, his hand ready to signal the continuation, but Ali stepped back. His trainer, Angelo Dundee, shouted from the corner, his voice barely audible over the crowd's roar. The scorecards showed Ali ahead, but not by much. One more combination, maybe two, and Young would crumble. The path to victory was clear, brutal, and expected. Hey friends, if this story is hitting you as hard as Ali's punches usually do, smash that subscribe button right now. We're pushing toward 1,000 subscribers, and whether you're watching on your phone, TV, or computer, your support means everything. Hit that hype button to help the algorithm share these incredible true stories with more people. Drop a like or throw an emoji in the comments. Let's build this community together. But Ali couldn't do it. In that split second, he saw beyond the opponent, beyond the sport, into the raw desperation of a man fighting not for glory, but for survival. Young's corner had wrapped his hands too tight, cutting off circulation because they couldn't afford proper tape. His shorts were faded, probably the same ones he'd worn in his last 3 fights. Even his mouthguard looked worn, the edges frayed from being boiled and reused too many times. The round ended, and Ali returned to his corner in silence. Dundee pressed an ice pack against his face, talking strategy, but the champion wasn't listening. His eyes remained fixed on Young's corner, where the challenger sat slumped on his stool, his team working frantically to keep him conscious. A cut man dabbed at the wound with supplies that looked like they came from a drugstore first aid kit. Young's manager, a heavy-set man in a cheap suit, leaned in close, whispering something that made the fighter's jaw tighten with renewed determination. The bell rang for the next round, and Ali moved to the center of the ring with different intentions. Instead of the aggressive combinations that had defined his career, he began to box defensively, allowing Young to land punches that would score points. The crowd's cheers turned to boos, confused by the champion's sudden passivity. Sports journalists in the press row leaned forward, scribbling furiously, trying to understand what they were witnessing. Young sensed the shift immediately. His punches came faster, harder, fueled by the desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, he could pull off the impossible. Ali blocked most of them but let a few through, enough to make the fight competitive, enough to give Young a chance at the decision, if it went the distance. The champion's face absorbed punishment he could have easily avoided, each impact a conscious choice. Between rounds, Dundee exploded with frustration. "What are you doing out there? You're giving this fight away." Ali just shook his head, unable to explain the weight of what he'd seen, the responsibility he felt. How could he articulate that destroying Young wouldn't just end a fight, but potentially end a family? That the money Young desperately needed would evaporate if he left the ring on a stretcher. The fight continued through grueling rounds. Ali's defensive strategy kept him safe, but made the bout closer than anyone had predicted. Young, sensing an opportunity he'd never dreamed possible, fought with everything he had left. His punches lacked technical precision, but carried the weight of absolute necessity. Every combination was thrown with the knowledge that his daughter's medical bills depended on his performance, that his wife's treatment couldn't wait another month. In the 8th round, Ali created an opening, a deliberate gap in his defense that any trained fighter would recognize. Young took it, landing a solid right hook that snapped the champion's head back. The crowd roared, suddenly alive with the possibility of an upset. Ali stumbled, playing up the impact more than necessary, giving Young the moment he needed to look competitive, to justify a larger purse regardless of the final decision. The judges' scorecards would later show a split decision, with Ali retaining his title by the narrowest of margins. But in the ring, as the final bell sounded, something unprecedented happened. Ali crossed to Young's corner before the decision was announced and embraced his opponent, whispering something in his ear that made the exhausted fighter's eyes well with tears. Cameras caught the moment, but couldn't capture the words. A promise that Ali would personally ensure Young's family received help, that the purse would be supplemented, that no man who fought with such heart would watch his family suffer. The Boxing Commission later investigated the fight, suspicious of Ali's uncharacteristic performance. Interviews were conducted, footage was reviewed, but no evidence of a fix emerged because there wasn't one. Ali had simply chosen mercy over victory, humanity over glory. He'd recognized that some battles extend far beyond the ring, that true strength sometimes means pulling your punches rather than throwing them. In the locker room after the fight, Ali sat alone for a long time, his hands still wrapped, his face marked by the punches he'd allowed to land. Reporters clamored outside, demanding explanations for his performance, but the champion remained silent. How could he tell them that he'd seen his own reflection in Young's desperate eyes, that he remembered his own early career, fighting for purses that barely covered training expenses, knowing one bad night could end everything? Young's career continued for a few more years, never reaching championship level but earning enough to support his family. His daughter received the surgery she needed, his wife got treatment, and the eviction notice became a distant memory. He never publicly discussed what Ali whispered to him that night, maintaining a respectful silence about the champion's private generosity. But those close to Young noticed a change. He spoke about Ali not with the typical reverence reserved for legends, but with the deep gratitude one shows a person who saved their life. The boxing world eventually moved on, as it always does, to the next fight, the next controversy, the next champion. But those who were in the arena that night in Las Vegas never forgot the image of Muhammad Ali, the greatest fighter of all time, choosing compassion in a sport built on controlled violence. They witnessed something rarer than a perfect knockout. They saw a warrior recognize the humanity in his opponent and respond with mercy. Years later, when Ali's own health declined and Parkinson's disease slowed the hands that once moved faster than cameras could capture, Young was among the first to visit. The two men sat together in Ali's home, their conversation private, their bond forged not in the heat of competition, but in a moment of profound human connection. Young brought his daughter, now grown and healthy, to meet the man who had changed their family's trajectory with a single act of kindness disguised as a boxing match. The sports media never fully understood what happened that night. They analyzed the fight from every technical angle, debated whether Ali had lost a step, questioned his training regimen. But they missed the real story, that the greatest champion boxing had ever known proved his greatness not by how hard he could hit, but by his wisdom in knowing when not to. Hey my friends, help me by subscribing to the channel so we can reach 1,000 subscribers, even if you're watching from your TV or computer. Your subscription makes all the difference, and the algorithm will help you see more amazing stories. Leave a like or an emoji in the comments and be part of this growth.